Perligo Ponders, do you think we'll stop seeing the black smear paint on Tyler or Clancy for the ending visuals of Breach? I understand the reasons why it is there, but maybe it goes away at some point in their music career. And this is from Yak13 underscore Yak13. Yes, I definitely do. 100% actually. I would be shocked if they come back from the hiatus and go on tour again with the black paint. It's very much intrinsically connected to this story. And you can see that because they've done non-lore related music videos, and for the most part, the black paint isn't there. I think. Well, now that I think about it, is it just the hype? Certainly, for the 14 music videos they did for Clancy, they kind of kept it there for the entirety of those songs and the music videos. I can't remember if he did in Chlorine. And he did in Drum Show. And that's not a lore video. And then obviously, you know, like Stressed Out and Ride and the whole Blurry Face era, he kind of had it because that was the point there. Fun intended. I was once wondering, do you no longer wonder, how Clancy knew that Keons was an available vessel in the Saturday music video? Yeah, I have been trying to reconcile that myself. My working theory right now, supported by what we see in the Ned Cozy Fireplace remix, right? There was a bunch of clues and Easter eggs throughout that. And one of them was a sticky note on the wall. And I can't remember the exact wording, but it basically was like, Keons said so. Something like that. There was the torchbearer was spotted, Keons said so. Something like that. And, oh, you still wonder. Okay, that's good. Thanks for the clarification. And because of that, it seems like Keons and Ned at least once got in contact with one another. They had a conversation. And I don't know if that was an ongoing relationship. I don't know. They were friends. They were drinking buddies. But it does make me think that perhaps Keons is part of the reason that the Ned creatures on the island of Voltsoy have the weapons of seizing, and that he told Ned his plan. He knew that when he destroyed the submarine and helped free Clancy, that he was going to die. There was no chance for him to survive there. Could even be what the song No Chances is about, but probably not. But regardless, he knew he was going to die after sacrificing himself for Clancy in order to save Clancy and free him. So as a result of that, he perhaps told Ned, here's the plan. When you see Clancy, I'm already going to be dead. Give him these weapons, show him how to use it. My body's going to be available to be seized. That's kind of, besides dumb luck, that's kind of the only solution I see right now. The dumb luck being that he just happened to be the vessel who most recently died, and so the second Clancy put the antlers together, that was the one he logged onto or whatever, you know, if you think of it as twisted VR. But yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I think it's one of those things that probably will never get fully explained, even as the story comes to an end, unfortunately. But yeah. All right, let's see if I can successfully move it on to the next question without ruining everything. Okay. All right. Oh, I did ruin everything. Look at that. Look at that. It's not. There we go. All right. Hopefully you can read that. Okay. This is a series of comments. I thought they were all interesting. Two of them are by the same guy, Jackie Morrison, What do we all think about the static radio interruptions, that have been in these teasers for Contract and Drum Show? There is a very specific noise they are using, and then he theorizes, I think it's actually VHS tape sound, like they are recording evidence for the trial. Ghost in the Robot chimes in. My trial was filed as a suicidal head case. Addict with a pen. Sorry, I got sidetracked. That's a good question that just came in from Kostud, and I'll respond to that in a second. But first, this. Yes, I think this is really interesting. I think we keep getting teasers of a trial of Clancy. I mean, the whole journal, right, which I use over and over again in my videos, this whole journal is labeled as evidence. This entire collection of documents is all evidence, which, given that everything that we see here was found on that hiddendemo.org website, makes me think that everything we've ever seen from this entire story is evidence, and that perhaps it's going to end in a courtroom. I have no idea, but I think it's interesting how many links there are to a trial and a court case and court documents, and like you said, there's like the VHS sounds like they're displaying something, they're projecting something, the projector that we saw in Overcompensate, and some merchandise. Why do we see all of these clues and elements of a trial, but no trial itself? I fully expected somewhere in Clancy, before I think Overcompensate came out, I fully expected that somewhere in Clancy we would be getting a trial of Clancy. The Scale and Icy era ended and he had escaped, but then he could have been brought back, or he could have voluntarily gone back and given himself up to be tried publicly and plead his case, right? Found my way, right time, wrong place. And then I pled my case. I don't know if I have much more to say on this comment other than yes, that makes a lot of sense given other things that we've seen, and I wish we would see more about this trial. I think it's not for nothing. I don't think there's no reason behind them putting all these references and clues to a trial. I think they're going to bring that in somehow. I'm just not sure how or when, because it seems like they have a lot to fit into City Walls. But that could be one reason why they're going back and refilming old music videos. Because it could, City Walls could just be like a 20-minute long video that's just court proceedings. And as they go through, they bring up different cases, different instances, different things he's charged with, like being charged with arson for the events of the music video of Heavy Dirty Soul. And so a document like the letter that was mailed around recently with that report of arson could show up for many of these instances. Unauthorized playing in a forest, like they did in Ride. Unauthorized swimming pool cleaners, like they did in Chlorine. I don't know, but it's got to lead somewhere, right? What do you think? All right, this question I wanted to come back to. Are we sure that Keons is the available vessel and not Clancy? Well, according to me, and one of my theories, one of my main theories, Clancy and Keons are the same person. It's just that Keons is Clancy at the end of a previous cycle. So I believe, and I think there's a lot of evidence to support this, that every bishop besides Nico is the result of an escapee Clancy failing to escape, being brought back, succumbing to the will of the bishops, and becoming a bishop himself, being so thoroughly corrupted by Blurryface that he becomes a bishop. But as the cycles go on, he becomes stronger and stronger, right? He's growing stronger with each attempt, as we saw in the I'm Clancy video. So Keons, being the most recent attempt, is the kindest bishop. And there was another bishop, I think Nils, who was referenced in one of the letters during the FPE shows during the Clancy tour, who was also somewhat kind, but not as kind as Keons. So perhaps he's the 7th attempt. And, or the 8th and the 9th. I forget exactly how the numbering worked, because Clancy, the current version of Clancy, is either the 9th or the 10th attempt at escaping. And so he would have been the 10th bishop That's why it's Nico and the Niners. Anyway, so no, we're not sure that Keons is the available vessel, not Clancy, because I think Keons is Clancy. That's kind of a non-answer, though. I think what you're actually asking is, are we sure it wasn't Keons controlling Clancy? Right? Like, Keons in the tower controlling Clancy on the beach. I'm pretty sure that wasn't the case, because we saw Keons get stabbed, but do you have further evidence that it's the other way around? Be curious to hear that. Oh, you did write more. I'm sorry. I did not see that. The reasoning being, we know Keons is described as stoic. In the next album, we see Clancy as stoic. Push on through. Indication that he's possessed. Okay, I see. Yeah, I get that, but again, we very rarely see something clearly laid out for us in the story, and we so clearly see Keons stabbed and dead that I think he's probably just dead, and I think the Clancy that we see on the island of Otsoy is still alive and not possessed by Keons. But it's an interesting idea. I just unfortunately don't see a lot of evidence for that. Broken Record, I saw your video about Drum Show. It's very good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I did not expect that video to do as well as it did. But I'm glad it did. I really like the song. Hope you do too. I was wondering today how long it's going to end up being. The music video, I assume. I took off September 12th off work just to process everything. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I mean, there's going to be a lot to unpack there. I mean, it's crazy that we're going to get a 13-track album, 11 songs of which we've never heard before, and a music video that ends the lore on the same day. That's going to be a lot. So, that's wild. Someone asked earlier, do you think they're going to do another lore music video after City Walls? Maybe. I think it's not a non-possibility. I don't think it's necessarily likely, but I think it'd be really cool if they did. I think they're done. I think they're ready for the story to end. They have the ending, and I don't know if they're going to mess with it by adding some stuff later. But they might, because there might be more to explain. But I suspect they're going to, because there's going to be flashbacks in the City Walls music video, I suspect that the City Walls music video is going to be it. Because the main reason people theorize that there might be a third lore video, like we normally get, is that another video could explain something that's supposed to happen in between Jumpsuit and City Walls, or perhaps even Paladin straight in City Walls. But I think given what they're doing with that music video, I don't think there's going to be much need for that. There were, yes, okay. Jen says, there are way more than 9 pairs of glowing eyes in the contract video. Although some have said those are past bishops. But would that explain how Clancy knew how to seize Keons? It might explain how Clancy knew how to seize Keons, although I don't necessarily think that that each new cycle has knowledge of what the previous cycle has gone through, if that makes sense. So, just because Clancy and Keons are both the same person on different cycles, I don't think that necessarily means that Clancy that we see in the story now has all the knowledge that Keons Clancy did. And there was something. 9 pairs of glowing eyes. Yeah, I don't think that the glowing eyes in the contract are past versions of Clancy or past bishops. I think they are simply either us as an audience, that is a compelling idea, or simply just the souls of the glorious gone. Everyone who's buried under the neon gravestones. And what he's cast into is the realm of the seized, the void. I think they called it in the behind the scenes video for the contract. And it's not something that's specific to him. It's a shared world, if you will, with a lot of other souls in it. And he manages to make it out. And potentially we even see him freeing them, bringing them back to life in a sense. When Keons is stabbed, he releases his spirit. His spirit enters the young dead body of Clancy, which would be how bishops change bodies. Psychokinesis can be translated as soul transfer. Yeah, it can, I think. I think that's right. It sounds right. But I don't think that's how they're using it. Because that would mean every time they seize someone, they are moving to their body. Is that what you're saying? Because I don't think that would make a lot of sense in the story from what we've seen. If it's like a temporary thing, they temporarily move their soul to the other body as they seize them. Yeah, maybe. But it's just, we see it happening the other way around. Keons is seizing Trash when he dies, and Trash dies with him. And then Clancy seizes Keons, and when he breaks the connection, Keons dies. So yes, he could be sucking the spirit out of Keons, kind of like a Dementor or something. I don't know. I don't know that's necessarily an impossibility, but I'm in doubt, I'm afraid. The story ends with City Walls and Intentions. What do you think the rest of the album will be about? I think my guess is that this album will very much look like Trench. And so on that, we have the Trench trilogy. And then we have a number of other songs. We have Neon Gravestones, Bandito, Morph, Leave the City, Pet Cheetah, sort of. And yeah, I think those are the only explicit lore songs. You can make arguments about the others. And so I think Breach will be something like that, where we have a complete story visually, and Intentions is going to really finally put that final note on it with Tyler's interpretation of the ending. And then we'll have to interpret his interpretation of the ending. And if I manage to interpret his interpretation of the ending cryptically enough, then someone else can interpret my interpretation of his interpretation of the ending. So that'll be cool. But I think the other songs in between will just fill in more gaps of the story, kind of like Morph and Bandito did. Maybe we'll get another feature from the Torchbearer. And then I think a good number of the songs aren't going to be lore related. I mean, we know Drum Show isn't, but I think there probably will be a song in there for Jenna. There'll probably be other just general songs, right? I think we're going to get more lore related songs than we did on Clancy, but I don't think all 13 songs are going to be lore related. How did Keon seize Trash or know that Trash was available, asks Fun Intended. And how did Trash die? Yeah, so how did Trash die is the question. Who knows? I mean, honestly, I wish I knew, because he's a pretty important character in the lore for the videos that he's in the lore. My theory right now, and there, again, isn't tons to support this, but my theory is that Trash was not alive at any point in the Dima storyline. He is the body of a forgotten mythical creature, a sea monster that dwelt, a sea/land dragon, I don't know, that dwelt in Trench, died out millennia ago. It's recorded in the history of Dima. There are myths about this. And Keons, perhaps through Ned, knew that it was a true story. We know Neds can swim. They live by the sea. Perhaps they've seen the body. I don't know. I'm just completely speculating. There's no evidence whatsoever to suggest that. But that's my fan theory. I don't know. Maybe they'll explain that in City Walls. I don't think they will. But I found and still find Trash very confusing, because he's on the cover art for Skilled and Icy, and then they explain him away as a trash dragon, which just means vulture. But then he's not a vulture, right? We don't see a vulture appear and attack the submarine. It's a dragon, but All right, there's a couple more comments I wanted to touch upon, and then let's look at the Bandito camp. And I won't take up too much more of your time here either. So let me just move back here. All right, so we have a comment from Taco7153. Perligo Ponders, I know Drag Path was theorized to be a song on Breach and could have been renamed to something else. In the I'm Clancy video at around 2 minutes and 10 seconds, he mentions this drag path is different. I saw them, in reference to the Banditos. Could this tie into any of the songs on Breach, and what is the significance of the drag path song and the one mentioned in the I'm Clancy video? Drag Path is one of their most intriguing songs because we have the lyrics and we have no song. And I don't know if we have that for any other song that isn't about to be published. Right? We have a couple of the lyrics for songs off of Breach because of their teasers, and oftentimes lyrics will leak or they'll themselves tease lyrics and things like that. So Drag Path is very interesting because we don't know much about it, but we have the lyrics and it is referenced in I'm Clancy. I think if it became a song on Breach, it would probably be One Way. We know the theme of that song is that this is the one way, and in the song Drag Path and the lyrics, from what I remember of them, it's very much a theme of destiny, right? There's the drag path etched on the surface for you to follow. There's a way you should go. This is the one way you should go. I don't know. From what I remember of the song and from what we've seen of One Way, I think that would make the most sense if those songs somehow tied together. Yes, the Loch Ness Monster of Dima. That's correct. In terms of in the I'm Clancy video, the drag path just simply seems to be him being smeared and dragged back to Dima. I looked up at one point the kind of etymology of drag path, and now I'm completely blanking on what I discovered. It wasn't fascinating enough that it kind of changed the course of the story completely. I think I mentioned it in a video. I think it was something like it tied into vessel somehow, like a vessel. But I think in short, it might just be a song that didn't make it onto Clancy, but that lyrically tied into the story enough and the I'm Clancy video that it was a cool addition of the digital remains. And it could also be a clue that we need to look at something etched on the surface. Some clue that they've left in the album art, maybe. Something that they've left in a music video, quite obviously left in a music video. Something that is in plain view, but we've been missing ever since the story started. As well as no kin seldom surface, do you thief at home? It's unfortunate we won't get an explanation for do you thief at home. I mean, I don't know. I think the entire video of City Walls is really just going to be them sitting down and explaining they made a typo. And as they do so, they will be burning $100 bills, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a huge believer in the double album theory, and then I was proved wrong. And I wasn't a huge believer in the leaked track list that included many of these titles, and then I was proved right on that count. But as a result of that, I kind of perhaps didn't pay as much attention to these potential titles as I should have, and I don't know. I don't have a ton of theories about what they could be. I'm frankly a little confused by that, because I did think they probably would be song titles even if they weren't part of a whole album, because I did think we would get a couple of songs at least. But it could simply be that they renamed them to other titles and we'll get those lyrics throughout Breach. That would be cool to see.